What's up, guys? Hey, I'm a little nervous. I I don't usually just sit and film a video in the middle of the park, but I am doing that now. I am recording the audio on my phone. That's why this is up in front of my face. Today I'm going to be talking about my December reads. I only read 4 books in December, which was a lot considering how much I've been working and also just living life, trying to be social and go to the parks and hang out with people. So I'm going to be talking about them anyway. This year, now that it's 2026, I plan to read more. I want to read 5 or 6 a month, so we'll see how that goes because I feel like I'm already in a reading slump and it's January 14th. But let's get into these ones. The first book I read, I wasn't even planning on reading this, and I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. I was kind of already in a reading slump before I picked this up, and I only picked this up because I was going to a cafe for a couple hours while I was waiting on somebody, and I didn't have anything with me. When I picked this up, it didn't really seem like the vibe at the time. It was the only thing at that Target that I hadn't read that I was somewhat interested in. So I picked it up, not really expecting much, just kind of, I don't know. I thought I was going to like it, but I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did. And I went through this book so fast. It pulled me out of my slump immediately. I read it in a couple days, and I knew like what was going to... If you don't know what this book is, okay. I should have probably introduced this. This is Wings of Starlight by Allison Saft. It is a story of Queen Clarion before she was queen, from Tinkerbell, from Pixie Hollow. I love Tinkerbell. I watched all the movies a lot when I was younger. They're just so cutesy. Everything about, I don't know, fairies, Disney. Obviously, I live at Disney. But I got this, and I knew how it was going to end, because obviously this takes place before the Tinkerbell movies. So Queen Clarion and Mallory obviously aren't together in the movies, so I knew how this was going to end, and I wanted it to break my heart. I got this book, and I said to my friend, I said, I know how this is going to end, and I want it to break my heart. And it did. And like leading up to the ending and during the ending, after the ending, I was hopeful that it would be another way, even though I knew it wasn't going to be another way. But it was just so powerful. I love her. I loved reading her story. I want there to be more backstories like this for a million other characters in every Disney world. So yeah, I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. I think there was like one part where I was like, I feel like she did the wrong thing, but I really enjoyed this, and this pulled me out of my slump. And that was the first book I read that got me reading more. The second book I read, I honestly would not have picked out. This is The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. And my friends and I from work started a book club, and this movie was coming out because we've all been going to the movies a lot together since we have AMC Pass. And I'm the type of person that I am not going to go watch a movie if there's a book that the movie was based on and I haven't read the book. So I was like, I need to probably read the book first. And we were like, let's all read it together because we're all readers. So I got this one, and I have had heard of this book for years, and I knew people liked it, but I just didn't think it was going to be my cup of tea. I usually strictly read fantasy, and I know I need to branch out. So this was a little bit of a branch out for me, and I loved it. And now I feel like I should branch out more. And this year I want to read things that aren't just fantasy. Obviously, fantasy is my favorite. I'm always gonna have a fantasy book. I'm always gonna be reading it. I'm always gonna be in all these different worlds, but this was incredible. I'm trying to do this whole video without spoilers, but the main character in this had just got out of prison, and she is on parole. She's looking for a new job, and she ends up getting this job as a live-in housemaid for this really rich lady who everybody thinks is crazy. She starts to fall for the lady she works for as husband, and I don't know how to say this well without spoiling. I feel like a lot of people have probably watched this movie recently, But yeah, she's their housemaid. She just got out of prison. She falls for her husband. But yeah, the ending of this is actually insane. Okay, honestly, the first part of the book was interesting. And then it got to the middle where I was kind of like, okay, I'm not feeling it anymore. Like, I don't know if I want to finish this. Like, I don't think this is for me. I will say this, there is a cheating trope, and that is just one thing that I'm like, oh, like, it takes me out of it. Like, that doesn't do it for me at all. That I feel like ruins any book, any movie, any TV show. Cheating, no. So there was that point where I was like, okay, like, I don't want to finish this. But we were in a book club, and I also hate DNFing books unless it's like terrible. So I kept reading, and oh my God, the plot twist, literally, I think I froze and just like dropped my jaw. Like, it was so good. I do wish that there were like a couple more things in the book before that point that kind of like foreshadowed what happened, or like how things really were, because then like after I read that, I looked back and I was like, okay, there was like maybe one thing that I was like, oh, okay, like I see that now, but I wish there were a little bit more things just to make it a little bit more believable, for me at least. That's just my opinion. But then we did see the movie, and the movie was also great. I went into the movie being like, okay, like I can relax, like, and just like, you know, because I know what's gonna happen. Like, I just read the book, like I know everything's gonna happen. The movie didn't follow exactly like the ending, and so me and my friends, because we all went together, we were sitting there like like at the movie. The movie was also phenomenal. I gave that such a high rating too, but I gave this book a 4-star because of that little middle part that I was like, I'm not feeling it, and because I wish there had been a little bit more foreshadowing of the truth before we got the big reveal. I get it, like it makes the reveal more like, oh my God, like I had no idea, but I also feel like there needs to be more of a connection between, so just that it like makes sense more like when it happens, you know what I mean? But fantastic book. I also read this very quick. I was the first one done in the book club. I think I read this in like 2-3 days. But yeah, 4-star, also great read. The next one I read was Finale by Stephanie Garber, and this was probably like one of my most anticipated reads of the past like year. So Stephanie Garber is probably my favorite author right now. Her and Marissa Meyer. Marissa Meyer has been my favorite author since I was like in 7th grade, but recently in the past couple years, Stephanie Garber has been like a god to me. I picked up Once Upon a Broken Heart in an airport one day, not knowing what it was, not knowing there was a series that I should have read before it. So if you haven't read anything by Stephanie Garber, please read the Caraval series before you read Once Upon a Broken Heart. Please, I tell everybody that. Once Upon a Broken Heart was like the best thing I've read since I read it. I keep like looking for how I feel about the two main characters in that in every other book series. And so I was so excited to read Caraval. The Caraval series is basically, okay, if you know nothing about this, Caraval is this game that happens once a year in a different location every year. It's magic. This guy named Legend hosts it. Nobody knows who he is. And Scarlett and Tella are sisters, and they have been wanting to go to Caraval their entire life because their grandma used to tell them stories about it, and it seemed so magical and perfect, and they just wanted to experience that. Scarlett had written to Legend every year asking to get an invitation. Every year she had never heard anything back, except one year when she's about to be married and cannot go attend Caraval anymore. She writes him a final letter and she says that they can't attend and she is getting married. Then Legend sends them tickets. So they end up going to Caraval, playing this game, which is obviously magic, and they tell you off the bat, do not trust anyone, everything is an illusion, don't trust anything, you know, this is all just a game, everything's just a game. And they tell you that, you know that, but then you end up still like falling for things that are not what they seem. And I even felt like I knew what was going on, and I was like, okay, like I trust this, I trust myself, I trust like what I'm reading. And then by the end of that first book, I was like, holy, like I don't even know what's real and what's not anymore. But so that was the first book. This is the finale. Obviously it's called Finale. The first book of Caraval, 5 stars. The second book of Caraval, which was legendary, 5 stars. This one I was so excited for, but I hate to say that it fell a little bit short for me. I feel like I loved, okay, so like the main 4 characters, I absolutely loved them in both the first 2 books. Honestly, except for Tella, because I'm totally lying right now. I did not like Tella because I was biased because I read Once Upon a Broken Heart first. So I did not like Tella going into this. I loved Dante. I loved Julian. I loved Scarlet, obviously. And I loved Scarlet and Juliet's relationship. I loved the relationship of Tella and Dante in the second book. I was so excited for this one. But I feel like the only character I liked in this out of those 4 main characters was Tella. And I wasn't really rooting for any of the couples anymore, which kind of broke my heart because I loved them so much in the first 2 books. The world is still absolutely incredible in this. I love the way she writes her lands. I love the way she writes magic. I love the way, I don't know, I love her. Everything she writes is generally great, but this one did fall short for me a little bit. I still loved it. I would give this, I think I gave it a 3. Yeah, this is going to be a 3-star. Took me a little bit longer to read than the other ones because I just kept getting so frustrated at the characters. But Stephanie Garber is still a saint, and please read her. And please read Once Upon a Broken Heart before you read Caraval. The last book I finished in December, and I say finished because I started multiple other books in December that will be finished this month. But the last book I finished is One Perfect Couple by Ruth Ware. Ruth Ware is a murder mystery author, and I read 2 other books by her in the month before I read this, and I am addicted. Her writing is so good. I read One by One by her, and then I read The Woman in Cabin 10, and I got through them also really quickly, so I had to pick up another one, and I decided to go for this one because this is a murder mystery that takes place during a reality competition show that have couples, like the couples are competing, and the main character is a scientist whose boyfriend is this younger wannabe actor who has not had his big break and doesn't really have a real job and is kind of like just a bum, to be honest. And he gets this offer to go on this reality show, but it's a couples reality show, and so he like convinces her to go on it, and she's kind of like wary about it, but she gets the time off and she goes on it, and their plan is for her to basically be eliminated, and so he can like go win, even though you have to like couple up with other people. This was like mostly his plan, but she's like, okay, I'm not planning on being here for longer than 2 weeks, so this is the plan. She ends up staying. He's the first person that gets kicked off, and then they're on this island. They're on this like brand new, not abandoned, because it's like the hotel that is being built there is like not even open yet. It's not even fully finished being built. So the crew is living on the ship that they took to get to this island, and they are like making a stop one night and they never come back, and that's what I'm gonna leave this at. But no, this is incredible. But the whole time, like my suspect, I was like, okay, I feel like it's them, but it was too obvious that I was like, there's no way that it's them, but then it ended up being them. So like I don't know how I feel about that, because I obviously suspected them, but then I like ruled them out completely because I was like, no, that would be way too obvious. So then like when it turned out to be them, I was still kind of surprised, because I was like, oh, I thought that was going to be too obvious. So I was kind of surprised, but I was not surprised at the same time, if that makes sense. But I gave this a 5-star. Everything she writes has been a 5-star, and I never want to put anything by her down. So yeah, that was the last book I read in December. I'm currently reading The Stolen Heir by Holly Black and Iron Flame from the Fourth Wing series, and those are going to be in my January recap. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed me talking about books. I'll see y'all next week. Have a magical day. Bye.